Hello and welcome back to Unsquashable.tv, live here at the AJ Bell ESF European Championships at the David Ross Sports Village at the University of Nottingham. And we're joined for our 3-4 playoffs here, and we're now courtside with the players as they're introduced.
European Individual Squash Championships here at the University of Nottingham. Please welcome the players onto court for our first bronze medals match. From Belgium, she's the Belgium #1. Please welcome Nele Gilis. She's the French #2. Please welcome Coline Aumard.
So you join back with me, lead commentator for this event, Josh Taylor, for our first of our 3-4 playoffs, where we see Nele Gilis face off against Coline Aumard. These two have had a good little bit of form coming into this, both playing well yesterday. Nele Gilis, obviously the Belgium #1, current world number 35 and Belgium national champion. And she's up against Coline, who's the French #2. And the world number 30. She's just about to head to Nottingham University and the French national champion. So I'm joined in this match with club hacker, Nottingham Forest fan and inspirational speaker, tournament MC and tournament director, and also owner of Unsquashable, Paul Walters. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm surprised you didn't hit me for the club hacker comment. I was expecting that early doors.
I'll let some things go. Yeah, it's been a long week, but a really enjoyable week, and you know, the Monrad system sort of does make for a lot of matches, you know, repeatedly each day, and it also gives us an opportunity, I think, to see, you know, players like this competing, you know, throughout the tournament. I've been particularly impressed with both players. You know, Coline, often under the, you know, shadow of Camille, but you know, has really sort of shown everyone here, you know, what a capable player she is.
She's shown she's a real fighter, I think, in her matches. She's really stuck in and dug in every contest she's had so far in this event.
Yeah, no, you know, real wonderful athlete. And again, Nele, I haven't really seen a lot of her. I've seen her play, you know, a couple of times, some of the earlier rounds, maybe in a British Open, but her and her sister have really impressed me with, you know, their approach as well as their ability on court.
They obviously had a tough 5-setter, didn't they, in the quarterfinals? Nele playing her sister Tina, and she came back there. I thought that might have been the chance for her younger sister to get one over on her older sister. But so we see, it'll be interesting to see how these players take this third, fourth playoff on. You know, playing for a bronze medal, so it does count for something. But it'll be interesting to see what mental approach they use.
Well, I think, you know, particularly with the players we've got here, we've seen throughout the tournament just how much this title means to them. You know, we spoke about you know, Nele playing her sister, and you could see her sister, you know, she was absolutely distraught on court after the win, and that's a real good sign because it shows that, you know, she really wanted to win, and to show that emotion against her sister, I thought was, again, you know, stands for even more. And yesterday, you know, Coline really disappointed that she didn't make the final. She didn't make it an all-French final, but again, I think we're going to see a very determined performance. The French in particular, very proud to play for the country, and hopefully that'll shine through in all of the
matches. This shows in this event, because they've always supported it, the French, quite well, haven't they? If you look across the record books, both Camille and Greg have racked up quite a few of these titles as we look at the finals coming up later on. So it's good to see, isn't it, the support that goes into this event and what it means to some of the European nations here.
Definitely, and they are very much a team. Obviously, they're on court, they're competing in an individual championship, but they're here as a team. They support each other, whether they've played or whether they're about to play their own matches. They're always on court, they're always supporting. You know, it was really refreshing yesterday. I saw a couple of the French players on the treatment table before their match, and they'd actually moved the treatment table near to on the balcony so they could actually watch the players and support. And that's a real, you know, I think it's an example that a lot of countries could actually learn from.
It's a nice approach, isn't it? Building that team environment into an individual sport. Last time these two faced was a 3-2 actually recently in PSL, so I think we could be in store for quite a close match. Not a lot between them in the rankings either, so we'll see how this first encounter of today's play goes. Have you got a prediction, Paul?
I think going into the match, probably Coline, sort of going on ranking and going on the fact that she's going to be moving to the University of Nottingham, and I think she'll be very, very keen to put in a good performance in front of everyone. That was my initial sort of prediction, but you know, the body language there in the opening rally and certainly in the warm-up was very positive from her opponent, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah, Coline took it 3-2 in PSL in their last encounter. I think Nele's clearly done some good work in the off-season. She's looked good in all of the rounds, and she put in quite a good performance yesterday. Obviously coming up against Camille Serme, the world number 3, but she certainly put in a good showing.
Yeah, athletically, you know, she's very, very strong. She obviously prepares well. So I think, you know, maybe the longer the match, the better chance she's got. Coline, probably the longer the match is going to go on, probably going to get a little bit more tense. Yeah. So it'll be it's an interesting matchup.
Nele was working some nice combinations in her earlier matches that we were picking out. She's got a really nice attacking two-wall boast that she seems to use quite a lot, and a very tight backhand drop. It's clearly something that they've been working on at their base, because her sister also had similar strengths. So it's quite an interesting matchup when those two came up against each other.
Probably a factor that's underestimated as well is the court, because players of this ranking very rarely would get an opportunity to play almost an entire tournament on an all-glass court, and I think that will help them very definitely in the development. The court, an all-glass court, plays significantly different to a traditional court, and it's a skill in itself to sort of be able to adapt to that, and I think the experience will be significant.
Definitely, I think this court as well seems to play with a very fast front wall. I know a lot of the players have been saying about that, and we've been talking about it here in the commentary box, is how fast that front wall is. So Nele's 2-all boast was very effective because it was flying away very quickly off that front wall. Quite a lot of players benefiting from late holds and being able to accelerate it quite quickly using the front wall as well. It's been quite an interesting bit to add into it.
Well, I think the interesting element to it is that historically, you know, people approach an all-glass court where the court seems to be a little bit bigger, and it's more difficult, and it takes a good shot, probably better than a traditional court. But certainly here, I think you're right. This all-glass court is quite quick off the front wall, and certainly watching some of the early matches this morning, particularly Charlie Lee, and he was playing on the back courts there, and the court was really, quite dead at times. So it's almost a reverse in terms of how the courts are playing.
It's a great setup here at the University of Nottingham, isn't it? It's nice to see the university investing in squash and the facilities here. It's almost a ready-made facility for an event like this.
Well, Nottingham's always had such a strong history within squash, and I remember in 2006 we ran the British Open here in the old facility, which in itself was, a great facility, but really you can't compare the two. I mean, this is just,
in terms of size, this facility is, I think on paper actually, is the biggest in the UK as a sports facility. It's not just the squash, it's all the other elements that go into it as well. It's good to see the investment in sport. And also, it's now benefiting the players. Obviously, Coline due to come here, as well as her boyfriend Adam Auckland. So they've got strong teams looking like they're lining up at the University of Nottingham.
Absolutely.
Nele's taken an early 6-love lead here.
Very positive in her execution. Again, I think a feature of her earlier matches was she was a little bit passive, but here really appears to have taken the initiative and looking to get onto the ball as quickly as she can, particularly at that front of the wall, and really try to exert pressure. A lot of hard hitting, but also some nice variations as well. Using the
just looking to use a bit of mixture, and I think one of the features Coline seemed to use her physicality well in the early rounds of this event, looking to try and get in front of her opponents and try and pick the tempo up in the rally. Nele looks to have tried to counter that by getting in front of her herself.
Certainly in this rally.
It's a beautiful backhand drop as well.
Absolutely.
The quality showing through.
Really dominating the rally from start to finish.
It's that backhand drop that we were talking about earlier on. I think it's one of Nele's key sort of weapons that she feels very confident to attack in with on that backhand side.
Certainly very effective.
It's just nice and simple, isn't it, that straight short ball? Not a lot to go wrong in it. Giving herself quite a lot of margin on it. Able to use the sidewall just to give a bit more protection.
And there, even though she's lost a rally, it's a good example of her trying to get in front of Coline, push her to the back of the court, and then looking at the first opportunity to take the ball in short.
This positivity she's shown early on. I know it's something that Rich was talking a hell of a lot about in the over the last few matches, was trying to, the World Tour has become very attacking, obviously the lower tin and elements coming into the game, and the players often that approach that the most and try and be the more positive are the ones that you find higher up the ranks. It's another nice backhand drop from Nele. Just keeping that lead. Coline's going to have to do something special to get back in this first game.
I think the best thing she can really hope for now is to use the rest of the game really to sort of try and establish at least some rhythm so she can start a little bit stronger within the second game. But certainly when you see rallies like that, there seems very little opportunity to do that. She's got to regroup between games and come out with a different mindset.
Yeah, she's certainly got to find a way of getting in front of Nele and giving a few more ways to her to really. Looking at this first game, she hasn't really done a lot to threaten the Belgium national champion.
Again, similar pattern in this rally to the previous rally. Again, great length. And
just looking to keep it very simple, Nele. She hasn't done a lot to make it overcomplicated. Just a couple of simple ways of working the ball in, but hugely effective in not taking too much on. Very few errors and quite a lot of winners in that first game.
Exactly. I think those opening rallies you saw a lot of pressure and a lot of harder hitting, but as the game developed, I think Nele, you could see her sort of developing her range a little bit, and again a great example there in that last rally where she's just lifting the ball, changing the pace. It's very subtle, but certainly very, very effective.
She looked very comfortable in that first game, showing signs that this season could be a good season for Nele.
Well, yesterday on court she was talking about her ambitions and wanting to sort of prioritise what she's doing in terms of the World Tour and trying to really sort of make a charge. So, and she looks here as though she's got the weapons to be able to do that.
It's interesting, this tournament obviously where it's situated in the calendar gives us a nice snapshot ahead of what the season might hold, doesn't it, Paul? In terms of quite a lot of players come into it off the back of their summer training or are still just starting to come out of their summer training, and it gives us a nice indication of the work that's been done.
Well, initially the tournament was scheduled for June, and we tried very, very hard to reschedule it. We had a lot of cooperation, particularly from all of the member nations, particularly from France, who were very keen again to support it. And I think the situation has gone from a negative end of season, one event too many, to a very positive, where it's a great indication, as you've said, in terms of how the preparation in the summer months has gone and how ready people are. We saw yesterday a great match between James and Borka. They've obviously both done a lot of work in the off season, and you could see that they're probably not playing to the level that they're going to be playing during the season, purely because it's the first tournament back, but it really is a good sort of stepping stone.
Yeah, it's interesting, particularly a lot of younger players coming into this event and being selected for their nations. Obviously, quite a few of them picking up first national caps, and it's a good tournament for them to get the experience of running all the way through a tournament with the monorad format being used as well.
Exactly. I think there, that first rally, or second rally at least, Coline really sort of stepped up the pace. You could see she's come on court with a little bit better body language, a more sort of determined, steely look about her, and really looked to sort of impart some pressure on the ball there. The weight of shot. Again.
A bit more intent from Coline, looking to try and work in some attacking balls and create some opportunities to start this second game. She had to do that though, Paul. She had to come out with some more fight.
Absolutely. I've just been quite surprised, the the positivity, which was almost a reverse of what I was expecting. You know, I was expecting her to be the one to be approaching the first game in this manner, but Nele really sort of took that first game very, very comprehensively. And again, some good exchanges, so good intent by both players.
She's got some really nice patterns of play, Nele. I think that's the thing that stands out. She's got some really comfortable ways in which she can move the ball around and stretch the corners. Not afraid to use height either in her variations. I think she's probably going to be one to watch this season. I think you're right, she's going to start to push on in the World Tour.
She's so strong there, and I think that athleticism at the front of the court just gives her more options. And you know, she's approaching the game now and developing a wider range of shot, and all of the physicality that she brings to it, and that athleticism, that can only help her develop that range onto the ball quicker and giving her more time to sort of delay and execute. Again, another great
so early, just reaching out, using her physicality there, wasn't she, to try and hurt her opponent, take time away.
Again, I think that's something that you've seen a lot of emphasis from the English players in particular, in terms of, you know, reaching forward, taking the ball in front of them in order to make the court, you know, a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And it's a subtle change in technique and approach, and I think that now is sort of being, you know, adopted by a lot of the sort of players that are emerging within the game. It's great to see European championships like this with, you know, Belgium and France and all of these different countries represented.
It's been nice to see the different nations and the national pride as well. Obviously on the World Tour, so dominant by the Egyptians now, it's nice to see some of the other nations and what they've got to offer at the later stages of an event. And actually, I think it's been very promising in terms of the young talent from some of these nations coming through in this event, that maybe it's not going to be as much one-way traffic in the next few years, or at least we can hope for that.
Again, you look at Camille, who was sort of was the first real top French player to come through. She was probably inspired by Gregory Gaultier and before him Thierry Loncourt, and now I think Camille's legacy is you're going to start to see players not just from France but from continental Europe sort of seeing that actually players from outside of the traditional squash nations can actually, you know, make some real inroads on the World Tour.
We've seen that from Nele, obviously from Belgium. It's not a nation that has had as many top players in its history. In fact, I try and think back to any, and I'm struggling.
Well, you know, there's the Hannes sisters and obviously Stefan Castellin on the men's tour, but like you say, it's been, you know, it's not really sort of developed a lot of players, and it's great to see, you know, the two sisters coming through and being a lot more sort of proactive and out there and making people stand up and watch the squash. Far more competitive game, the second game.
Yeah, Coline showing a lot more intent, battling for that T-line a lot more. Okay, that's a nice cross-court shot, just fading it across the front wall.
This game's probably a little bit more fluid than the other matches as well that Coline's played. I think the feature of her earlier matches was there's a lot of stop and start. There was a lot of, you know, restrictions on court, but you know the movement patterns seem to be very fluid, particularly in these first two games. Obviously, it didn't help the fact that the first game was so one-sided, but even in this game, where you know, from a score perspective, it's very tight. It's also a very easy game to watch.
Great get from Nele, doing some great work here and retrieving. find herself now in a bit more position. Yeah, I think Coline had a lot of scrappy matches, in fairness, in the build-up, but she fought well through them. I think the feature was that as the matches went on, shot work started to get tighter and tighter, and the decisions got less and less. But early on seemed quite agitating in what she was trying to do, and as a result, some loose balls coming out. But she seems here to be playing with better quality of shot.
It's very tight at the front of the court. That's a great angle. Again, just showing where the ball's actually landing in relation to the front wall, and just how difficult to get that would have been.
And also the effort from Nele to make sure she tried to clear and give a line. Something we were seeing a lot yesterday in terms of the referees trying to encourage the players to play the ball more.
Nice variation. I think that's the feature of the French. They really use that attacking boast very, very well, quite sparingly. But obviously you expect it from someone like Greg, and watching Camille as well. She's used it, and that variation, it really is quite telling. I think both players felt that rally.
Yeah, it's really in contrast to that first game, this second game, isn't it? Coline has
There's
come
no
out
real
firing.
urgency to serve and get in that service box. There's a lot of wiping of the court, and it's great to see this, particularly for the women's game. So often people talk about, and I think wrongly in my opinion, that the limited depth in the women's game, and I think what you're now seeing is the emergence of these sort of players, and not only is it very competitive at their standard, they're actually getting nearer and nearer to those, to those top girls.
Yeah, I think the last 5 years have shown that the quality and depth of the women's tour is massively improved in my mind. You look down this a match with 30 in the world ranked players, and it's a very competitive and very high level of skill being shown from both of them. I think that's credit to how the tour's progressed for the women.
Absolutely, because I think a criticism many years ago was that there's a hardcore of players, maybe top 10 players in the world. It was a real profession for them, and maybe the girls below them, it was more sort of a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
And I think now you're seeing a real shift. Obviously the tour is a lot more commercial. It can now be a career, and I think there you're seeing more investment from the federations, which has been rewarded in greater investment with the players in terms of the effort and the training and the preparation.
So Coline takes that second game 11-5. In contrast, actually, very different game to that first game. A lot of intent from the French player, just looking to really get in front and fight for every point a bit more. It's going to be interesting to see what Nele does and how she comes out in this third game, and how she reacts to quite a contrast from the French player, don't you think, Paul?
I just think in that first game, Nele appeared to have a lot of weapons and was very positive. And I don't think she lacked for positivity in that game. I just think that, the quality of Coline's play and also her increased intensity just limited those opportunities. I mean, there, you can still see her trying to get up the court and to take those opportunities, but she's really being forced back into those defensive positions. And again, great width,
Yeah, I think Nele looked to lift and defend and try and change the paces to find herself back in front a bit, but she's going to have to show that a little bit more, I think, as Coline's level has just considerably stepped up in that second game.
I think
Really
they're a
interesting
real,
third game.
a great example there of, a strength, core strength. You see that as a real feature in the men's game, not so much easily to identify in the women's game, but you could see there a real sort of strength of movement. It's interesting watching Nele practice before her matches. There's a lot of practice on the backhand side.
Yeah, and it shows, like, she's so tight down that backhand side. A lot of the combinations come off pressure built in the backhand deep corner. And it was the same for her sister. It's interesting to see the two of them play, because quite a lot of it unfolded on the forehand side as they both tried to find space to attack.
Coline's going to be disappointed with that.
Yeah, that's
an
a
easy
cheap
point.
error. So how do you think the event's gone from you on a tournament director front, Paul? Obviously, first time this event's been in England for a long time. If only it's the first time, I believe, isn't it?
It's the first time, yeah. I had a conversation with, I was approached by Keir Worth, the CEO of England Squash, several months ago, and he said that he was very keen to sort of work with the European Squash Federation and bring this tournament to England for the first time, and also was very keen to make sure that England were represented by some of the best players. To a certain extent, that's been limited with the introduction of the China Open, which has meant that some of the top English girls unfortunately weren't able to play. But again, that's given some great opportunities for the likes of Nele. But I think overall it's been very well received. The facility is second to none. Running a tournament and a championship of this stature at a new facility always has its challenges, and we certainly found that maybe in the first day, which was compounded by the sheer volume of matches that we had. But it's been very encouraging. The venue itself, from Dan Tiller, the director of sport at the university, downwards, the support has been incredible. Nothing has been too much trouble. One of the big challenges that we had from day one was actually what we're looking at here is the angle at which we were sort of viewing the court.
Camera, yeah.
We've actually had to put in a permanent structure which we built overnight on the first night, and nothing was too much trouble. And I don't think anyone really expected the university to probably have the appetite to do that, but straight away they've done it, and that's been rewarded with some of the positive comments that we've had through social media.
Yeah, I think it's shown, hasn't it, that they really are prepared here at University of Nottingham to go the extra mile for the squash and providing the best facilities that they can. And it's good to see England squash trying to get more events coming to England, and hopefully trying to inspire future generations to come and do well in the sport.
Well, it's been a busy year. It started off with obviously the national championships, then the British Open, and just had the World Doubles, now the Europeans, and we're going to be finishing we're going to be finishing the year with the AJ Bell World Championships, which is the biggest tournament on both the men's and women's World Tour.
Joint prize pot as well, isn't there, in Manchester for that event?
Absolutely, and again, that's as we said before, I think has been instrumental in really seeing the emergence of the women's game.
Just catching the frame there.
think after such a positive game, obviously we're in the very early stages of the third, but I think Coline will probably be a little bit frustrated that she hasn't been able to impose herself in the way that she did from the very outset of that second game.
Yeah, I think the quality level, barring that frame from Nele, has definitely gone up. A bit better width to the back of the court. Trying to just constrict her opponent a little bit more. I said that she also gives a loose post away. Commentator curse, isn't it?
Really trying to attack the back of the court here, Coline. But again, looking for that opportunity that when she does get in front to try and hit away from her opponent, trying to make her work. Again, very positive on the backhand side. This sort of relentless hitting has often been a feature of the Australians in years ago, and certainly when you look at some of the Egyptians that are coming through, they hit the ball so hard, and at times so low to insert that pressure. And you can see here, to get herself back into the match, Coline's looking to adopt a similar sort of tactic.
It's the velocity of hitting, isn't it, and trying to knock your opponent back in the court. And just trying to pick up the tempo of the rally and trying to force the mistakes and loose balls out of your opponent. Again, hard struck cross court there from Coline. Narrowing it back down to a 2-point cushion in this third game.
I think often it's very difficult for people sometimes to appreciate just how hard and that the girls are hitting the ball, and the weight of shot that they've now developed. But watching this, I think you start to get an appreciation of that physicality and that pressure that's being brought about to a greater weight of shot.
Again, great coverage from Nele. The physicality and movement is so strong.
It's very contrasting, isn't it? You looking at the two, you would say that Coline looks a real sort of physical player, and you'd be forgiven for thinking Nele probably wouldn't cover the court as well for such a long period, but a lot of strength there within her movement. You'd expect Nele to get there, but it's a strength that she holds in the position as well. And again, great backhand drop.
Struggling to take that ball early. I think she's a much more fluid mover, Nele. Moves in and out of positions so smoothly. There's another replay of that great shot. Just looking to reach out in front of her to take that ball.
The way she reaches out there, reminiscent in some respects to David Palmer, who obviously we talked before about not a lot of Belgian players before, but obviously David Palmer, Australian, was based in Belgium for an awful long time, and maybe that's an influence from the great man himself.
Nele building quite a strong lead now. Finds herself 5 points up. Again, a cheap error off the racket of Coline.
Should be disappointed with that, obviously, but it's opportunities like that where she really needs to take the initiative. Again, a beautiful backhand drop. What a drop from Nele Gilis. She's definitely looking to work a few of those into this game. It's a key strength of her.
anything loose around there is punished.
Well, we saw in that second game that Coline's hitting, was forcing Nele to the back of the court and not really giving her any opportunities there. And we've seen the same approach from Coline, but Nele's really sort of countered that by still being able to get to the front of the court and be very, very positive in terms of attacking those front corners.
Yeah, I think the quality down the backhand side does open up a lot of opportunities for Nele. I think in that third game there, the quality of width from Nele was better down that backhand side. And I think countered what Coline was trying to do and still started to create herself some chances in and around that backhand drop, as we saw there, a few winners off the racket of Nele. I think Coline's got to try and bring much of the quality of the second game in terms of velocity of hitting and intensity that she brought in with her movement and match it with a bit more quality of width hitting and quality of shot.
And I think that quality of length in particular gave her an opportunity to show a little bit of more sort of subtle variation, which again, she wasn't given the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think quality of shot went back to much what Nele showed in the first game for me in that last game. I'm sure we'll see that from James later on in the men's final. He's one to watch, isn't he, in terms of how the quality of shot that he hits and the fading length that he continually hits to open up chances.
Well, that's interesting. She's first on court again, but this time practicing almost exclusively on the forehand.
She heard you, I think. Nele kicking off this fourth game. Coline definitely looking to hit that ball a bit harder, trying to get the intensity back into her game.
Good length and width from both players.
Again, just trying to match the height and weight of the shot. Great lift from Nele, just giving herself a chance to recover.
Well, that was a contrast from the previous rally where taken into that front forehand, literally just tried to hit hard and low. And there you saw great lift to keep her in the rally.
Given their ball's a bit high for the stroke. Coline definitely was trying to have a little look for it though. Referee's still trying to promote the players playing the ball.
That's two great rallies there. Very, very positive from the French woman. Real shift in momentum again within this match. She just needs to be careful that trying to exert this pressure through weighted shot, that she gets the height of the front wall correct. I think often there's a tendency to just overhit or underhit.
Particularly on this court, actually, I think for a glass court it's quite springy in the back corners. It doesn't seem to die quite as much as some of the other glass courts. As we were talking about earlier, it's quite a lively court for the players to play on. On that early.
Stroke to Aumard. 5 love.
Gets the stroke. Now taking a big lead in this 4th game.
Yes, left. 5 love.
Nele thinking that the quality was too good there, but Coline was fast up onto that ball.
Again, that was great movement by Nele. You could see there, you know, just how she sort of moved in, how she, you know, transfer of balance and quickly out of the corner.
She's got real intent to take the ball early, hasn't she?
That's wonderful retrieval. I know that obviously she didn't ultimately win the rally, but there's some real athletic gets there, and, you know, keeping the ball back in play, and I think that's been a feature of her play throughout the whole tournament.
Just doing a bit of housekeeping. Just making sure that the surface is good to play on.
We've got a couple of examples actually, but there doesn't seem to, the court doesn't seem to have been affected with sweat very much on this court, and I don't know, the venue doesn't overly appear cold, but and obviously Borka yesterday was sweating a lot, but again I think in a lot of matches that Borka would play, you would maybe tend to expect a lot more stoppages.
Yeah, I think this court, in comparison to some of the other courts used on the World Tour, is obviously a permanent court, and the floor is a permanent floor, which I think makes a big difference, Paul. Quite a lot of the events obviously played on temporary courts that have popped up, and the quality of the floor, having gone on the court earlier on, it's more of a traditional floor that absorbs the sweat a lot better, I think. I think that's shown. It's good for the players.
Again, a lot of floors, historically at least, you know, were painted, which again has made it, you know, very, very difficult for sweat to be dissipated through the surface. And you can see here it's a natural surface, and I think that's definitely helped. I know that ASB in particular are very keen to sort of introduce this glass floor concept, which from a marketing perspective I think is fantastic. Again, one of the key considerations from a performance perspective is the hardness of court, and also its ability for it to dissipate sweat.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with squash, isn't it? That it's been very hard to find an alternative to a traditional wooden floor to absorb the sweat and also give the give in the floor that the players are after.
I think that cushioning is absolutely essential, and I know I was talking to Danny Lee, Charlie Lee's father, the other day, and I know he's a big advocate of, you know, a more forgiving floor. And again, as you see the players playing longer, you know, you've got Greg, you've got Nick. Before them, you had David Palmer playing well into the 30s, and I think that's probably, as well as their own sort of physical preparations, it's also a product of, you know, better technology in terms of floors.
Yeah, all these elements have got to go into elongating players' careers, haven't they?
This is probably Nele's last chance to sort of salvage anything from this game. Again, she's not looking, obviously she'd want him to be taking the game and run with it the match, but if nothing else, you'd like to maybe sort of establish a little bit of momentum for the...
Yeah, I think he's trying to take some form into the 5th game if it goes that way. But she certainly won't be giving up in this 4th game. You can see that. Just trying to get every ball back and trying to look to get on top in the rallies a lot more here. That's a great shot from Coline there. Showed that yesterday. Some nice use of her hands to take the ball in on the forehand side. Was a standout strength in the game against Nele. Every time the ball went into that area, she looked like she had a few options. Cheap mistake. Might just give Nele the opening to try and get back into this game. 5 points is a big lead though for Coline to hopefully hold on to for her. There's that attacking boast that Nele plays so well. It's the weight of shot that she plays into the front there. It's just looking to get that ball dying and fading away on the second bounce.
I think it's essential here for Coline that she really looks to be positive and to take the match to her opponent. The more passive that she is, it's just going to enable Nele to sort of influence the game a lot more.
6-9.
Nele now taking that down to a 3-point gap. Just looking at the body language of both players. Coline looking like she's trying to regroup a little bit. Nele looking quite positive.
Coline does strike me as a player that has occasions during matches where she really doubts herself.
She seems like a confidence player to me. You know, when she gets on top, she seems like a player very hard to beat, but the second the momentum starts to shift, it can be a downward spiral for her. Very tight. Be interested to see what the ref calls here. No let being given. Coline finding herself with 3 game balls after that big lead. Velocity of hitting from Nele. Oh, finished off beautifully on that backhand side. Really does look to attack anything loose around there.
It's strange because it's obviously the shot she favours, but it doesn't always look the most natural shot.
It's quite forced on the follow through, isn't it? But it produces the goods every time. Just see how Coline handles this.
It's just not the way that she's, you know, even if she does close out the game, it's just not the way she wants to be closing the game out, and almost, you know, she's winning the game, but is there a momentum shift in terms of the overall match?
Definitely, I think the momentum that gives the player, you can see mentally in their body language what's happening. If you look at how Coline suddenly starts to seem a little bit more uptight about what's going on in the match. Nele looking more and more positive as it goes on.
Very anxious. You can see there any stop in play. Coline straight away looking at the referee.
Going into these pressure points, you want to be in the most relaxed state and a positive state as you can be, really, don't you? To produce what you need under pressure.
more patient there from Coline. Very keen to get off the court.
No, they're just dropping a racket there. I don't know if the interference caused us to drop it.
I really didn't see it. I didn't see it, sorry.
Referee giving a no let. It's hard to tell. If we can get that replay again, it would help. It's hard to see what quite happened there. See Gilis dropping a racket, but it's whether or not that interference caused that, or if it happened before. It almost looked like she might have dropped that earlier on as she was going into trying to get the shot.
It's strange. She almost seemed bullied in that particular situation, which is in complete contrast to the way I'd describe how she's approached the other rallies.
Here we go. Yeah, see, it just fell out of her hand, didn't it?
She was possibly anticipating a bigger impact.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think Nele's going to come out in this game with a lot more intent. She showed really good signs in the back end of that fourth game. Much of what you want to see from her. Be interested to see how Coline comes out in the fifth game. Obviously showing she was getting a bit more worked up at the end of that game as it got tighter and tighter. Often the fifth game is all for the player that's got the best mental state, isn't it, Paul?
Well, I think the fact there that she's taken so little time between games to sort of regroup in her own corner. She's obviously, she knows what she wants to do. She knows in her own mind at least what she's got to do to win this match. So she's obviously got a very, very clear mindset, a very, very clear game plan. Whether that's the right game plan, time will tell, but certainly it looked there as Coline was in the corner and she was walking away with her coach. She was almost, it appeared that she wanted to be given some direction in terms of what she's got to do. Whereas Nele, in contrast, very positive, on court, I know what I've got to do. It's now just executing the plan.
She's definitely looking the more positive out of the two on her toes. Start this fifth game. It's a great finish though from Coline, taking the first point. So their last encounter would have indicated the 3-2 result. And we've managed to get that again. Good start to the proceedings today. Velocity of the hitting's gone up considerably. Both players hitting the ball quite hard.
A lot of intent. And understandably so early in the game, very little variation, but I think what's going to be crucial here is that Coline or Nele use that, that position on the court. If they're able to get in front, I think it's important that they use that variation.
There's that backhand drop that Nele plays so well.
There again, it's all hitting. Poor error. Didn't really appear to have a lot of conviction in that. It was hit more in hope than...
Yeah, it was definitely the right area.
It was the right shot,
it was the right shot. Just needed that confidence on execution. Again, any ball in that area, Nele just looking to get the nice, simple, straight drop in.
It's the most basic of tactics, but often
The most effective.
absolutely.
If only you had a backhand drop, Paul. You taking notes of Nele's backhand drop there?
It's pretty equal in terms of these opening rallies in the score at least. 2 points. That could be quite significant as the game unfolds.
Well put away from Coline, staying in touching distance. Neither player really stamping their dominance on this fifth game. And a hard struck cross court.
I think the forehand volley there from Coline showed a little bit more subtlety, which again, then when she sort of got on that cross court, probably made that cross court a little bit more effective. I know key to Coline's success is going to be that pace and weight of shot, but again, I do think that with that positivity, she needs to, bring in a little bit more variation in order to sort of break the movement of her opponent.
I think so. She's definitely looked stronger as the pace of the rallies has gone up. So whether or not she can withstand that and sustain that and build enough pressure to really break down Nele enough.
We talked earlier about the feature of the match being how well the players were moving around court and how few stoppages there actually were, and it's understandable, but you can obviously see now anxiety bringing about less fluidity on the court.
Ooh, going for the cross court, just catching the racket. Nele looking to push across, looking for the straight ball, but Coline accidentally playing it across her. Went flying.
Not happy. She's a very determined player, Coline, but also a very, very fair player. And you can see there instantly looking to reassure the player. But happy to take the point nonetheless.
Yeah. Just taking every point that's gone her way. Keeps her in touching distance. 6-7. Oh. Racket falling out of Nele's hand, but clearly not being able to do enough to. Oh, bit of a juggle there.
That makes it even more frustrating to see your opponent drop the racket and still lose the rally.
She did so well to play that with such quality, given her racket was coming out of her hand.
Great coverage by both girls here. Fifth game, approaching the hour. Strong movement.
Just shows the professionalism down the ranks in the women's tour. Both of them truly professionals in the way in which they go about their day-to-day training and preparations.
The psychology here is going to be interesting because in that mammoth match with her sister Nele had the positivity and the reassurance of all those wins previously against her, which I think ultimately was crucial in her success.
Great width there from Nele. She really has that quality down the backhand side.
Yeah, and Coline again, I think, is the one here sort of doubting herself.
Stop.
9-7.
No one wanting to make the first move.
Both just trying to find each other out, find some space in these big points back into this fifth game. Nele just giving a couple of looser balls. Coline to eventually finish off that rally.
I mean, this is exactly what you want from a bronze medal match, isn't it? You know, fighting to the very end. Not just a fifth game, but you know, to go to the business end of the game and it still be so close. It's all margins here.
Just using a bit of lift, just buy herself some time. And up into that.
Coline is certainly outwardly showing signs that she's probably not as strong as her opponent. Whether that's actually the case or not, time will tell, but
Sort of mentally, that can be the case, can't it? And how you're able to recruit every bit that you need in these dying points. Nele opening herself up to match balls. Be interested to see if she can close out this fifth game at the first attempt. Oh, some interference around the middle. Loose ball, but we can still try and get in and play that ball. Doing every effort. Stroke being given. And we're joined now on courtside by the multitasking Paul Walters.
Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation there to both players.
Coline, if you would also like to join us. I think it's only fitting after such a great competitive match that we speak to both players. When you have a tournament like this and you're playing for a bronze medal, it's fitting that both players leave everything on the court. And first of all, and I'm sure everyone here would like to share their appreciation in a great match. So while they do get the breath, ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation. Coline, I know you're disappointed, but you've had some good matches here, and I think what you have shown to everyone who's been here and everyone who's seen it on the screen is just what a fine player you are and what a force you're going to be on the World Tour. There probably doesn't seem to be many positive things at the moment, but on reflection, do you think you can take a lot from it?
I moved to England, so I was quite flat, and
actually means to Coline. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation. Nele, in a match like that, there always has to be a winner, and today is your day. So, in your words, your reflections. And the nice feature of the match was not only how competitive it was between the both of you, but also how fluid the game was. There was big fluctuations, but there was very few interruptions. And overall, you must be pleased that it was a great advert for women's squash. Often we've seen, countries like Belgium probably not represented at the highest level within the sport. For a player like yourself to come through and hopefully leave a legacy for those players, where did you get your inspiration from? Who are the players that you looked up to?
My whole life I've looked up to people because not only on the court, she's special. I don't know, it's such a good athlete on the board, fair and off court, she's super nice.
Well, you certainly showed those qualities, not just here, but around the world tour. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for both players. We now before our next match, which will be the men's bronze medal match.
So a very quick interval here on Squashable.tv, and we'll be joined back with the 3/4 playoff of the men's event.